the core deficit in our society is a self-regulatory deficit. It accounts for the addiction, it accounts for the criminality, it accounts for the violence that we see and out of control behavior in the school system. The whole ball of wax. It is, broadly speaking, a self-regulatory deficit. The brain is not able to manage itself. And this is in the emotional domain, right? It turns out when you go back and look at the health trajectories, what happens to people over the course of life, the biggest factor that accounts for ill health and bad outcomes in the rest of life is the emotional upbringing of the child, the first 2 years. And that is now compromised by the fact that in a modern world, the mother really cannot devote herself to the infant as in prehistoric societies, right? The parent is going to be distracted by vicissitudes of life in these early years to an extent that actually matters to the neurological development of the child, to its detriment. So it's almost impossible in the modern world as a child to grow up healthy in an environment that was universal, that infants grew up attended to categorically all the time, right? But the entire waking hours that they were being attended to by mother or other tribal members and so forth, right? And that's simply no longer the case. And it turns out that child abuse is one thing. And neglect is equally devastating, right? And where the nervous system can build defenses against abuse, it has no defense against neglect, right? Just simply the absence of the loving and attentive and consistent mother. There's no way to defend, and the child still suffers. And this is now the core issue, right? It's a stealth issue because we don't recognize it as the problem. It's just simply the realities of life. But it's devastating to the infant because it launches fear, it launches a foundational insecurity, right? That it now carries forward, laying the basis for these anxiety conditions in early childhood, and that insecurities may build to the point where the child even commits suicide. These things have roots, and the roots take us all the way back to the early experience of the infant. We're the only society, the only complex society that does not offer maternal leave. But it's not enough.
You mean by society, you mean by complex society, you mean the United States in particular? I just wanted to
Yeah, I mean,
clarify on that.
the only societies that do not have paid maternal leave are traditional societies, right? Palau's, the Pacific Islands, and so forth, where this is not an issue. This is where traditional family life is not in question. They don't have the problem. We have the problem. But now it's worse because I just saw some data on child health in Denmark just yesterday. I figure, okay, Denmark has maternal leave, but child health is just on a terrible growth curve even there. So there's something beyond, it's not enough. It's a broader affliction, and I don't have the answer to that just now, but I just realized it's not just the flaw of not having parental leave, maternal leave and paternal leave. It is something else that, maybe the digital devices and so forth come into this. But the problems of moving to younger and younger years, and they're gender dependent. It turns out to be much greater affliction of our girls, and who, of course, are much more vulnerable to early traumas than the boys. Than the boys, it's more devastating. They become the criminals. And here we come at it with an individual solution, right? The solution is marvelous. It is awesome, right? Because the potential for self-recovery in the human brain is just amazing. And we're just facilitating that. But we've got a much, much bigger issue, and you look at it and say, okay, that takes an entirely different level of remedy.
Yeah, there seems to be something else going on, and it almost creates like another mystery in and of itself of what is going on, why is this happening, and more importantly, what do we do about it? And it makes me think about your son and this idea of what happens when you put them in a better environment, right? An environment that allows them to be who they are and allows them to thrive in these different pieces. And I don't mean necessarily environment just like the outside or school, the home environment for the parents, allowing the parents to thrive and feel comfortable and safe in who they are, and that allows them to raise a family, that allows themselves to feel like they can be who they are, right? It's this larger ripple effect. And I think one of the benefits of what you do and what so many others are doing with neurofeedback in various ways is that the gift, just like we learn through, I would say, a lot of Eastern wisdom or meditation, is that you can learn to be regulated, I would say more or less independent of your circumstances, right? You can learn to hold that like higher, I don't know, level of consciousness, hold that like peace, inner peace, and that calmness, and develop that from within that allows you to penetrate whatever other things are doing to you, right? And you become sovereign in that way. And I think when you have more healthy, sovereign, regulated people, they start to create a more healthy, sovereign, regulated society, right? And start to build the infrastructure and the architecture physically, like literally the types of buildings, the types of art, the types of TV shows, the types of media, right? Like even when I look at us, like, you know, there's this great irony of we're talking about technology and all these things, and here we are participating in that tech, in that society and technology, and hopefully in a way that actually like contributes, right? And there's always that like weird thing where sometimes we only find out about bad things because of the thing that we created that let us know that there was a bad thing in the first place. Like there's so many weird conundrums like that, right? And there's also this great gift and opportunity with that to create healing on, I think, a large scale with all of these technologies and with the places that the world is going, that we can harness them in the correct way with the right people to create better individuals that create a better society.
Yeah. Yeah. The individual solution is going to contribute to this, and then there needs to be the societal level, a recognition, first of all, of the dilemma that we've created for ourselves so that we can go for a remedy.
Do you feel like there is actually more trauma now, or do you feel like we are simply maybe aware of said trauma now?
There is more trauma now because more parents are not capable of being good parents, right? Because they have this set of difficulties. So we're dealing with multi-generational trauma. But a bigger issue is this stealth issue of neglect, right? Which, because it's not just neutral terrain. To get a functioning human being out of this process, the infant has to be unconditionally loved, right? It has to be a positive experience. It can't just be neutral. Neutral is not enough. No, this infant needs to know that it is the beneficiary of unconstrained, unbounded love from the mother or the mother figure. And if that is not happening, and not happening with continuity, right? If it's episodic or something, not good enough. No. So there's this very high bar on what needs to happen to launch a functioning human being.